Good afternoon, Voomers. Welcome to this, our first live webinar session. We are joined today by Olly from What A Melon, who were the winners of the Crowdfunder Award in VOOM 2016. And the topic today that we're going to be discussing is how to make the most of VOOM, how to make the most of the opportunity. So first of all, Olly, can you tell us, just in a nutshell, what is What A Melon? What's it all about?
So What A Melon is 100% natural watermelon water, and it has the same hydrating benefits of coconut water, but it tastes a lot nicer.
Fantastic. And what can you tell us about your VOOM experience in 2016?
So it all started when we were walking past the tube advertising billboard on the tube station. And I actually hadn't heard of VOOM until I saw it. And literally at the time, we just launched What A Melon. So the timing was perfect to kind of get involved with the competition. And we had like a really short time frame, so we kind of rushed to kind of get our stuff together. But the whole kind of competition, you know, it was an amazing experience, and I've recommended it. I've lost count the amount of people I've recommended who should definitely take part. And I kind of described the whole experience as kind of like a turbo button for our business, for the brand.
Fantastic. I think that's a really good fit for VOOM as well. And so how did you approach the task of making the most of it, I guess, once you found out about it and you're like, okay, the timing's great. What do we do here?
So I guess the first kind of thing we did is we kind of like looked at what our objectives were and what we wanted to kind of get from the competition. And we also kind of sat down and we looked at our kind of strengths and our weaknesses, and then we kind of built our kind of strategy and our plan around our strengths and what we wanted to achieve. So we wanted to kind of get people to try our product. So sampling was something we wanted to do anyway. So we kind of used all our samplings as a way of getting votes, and we would give, you know, people a little cup to try, or we'd give a full tetra, and then if people liked it, we'd ask them to vote for us through the competition. And then kind of likewise on the crowdfunder, because we were launching the brand, we kind of had like a wish list of the stuff that we wanted to do. So we kind of built our crowdfunder around like a launch pack for the brand.
Mm-hmm. And you've touched on something which I think is really key there, that you guys were collecting votes and crowdfunding at the same time, which of course is something you could do in VOOM in 2016, and again this year you actually have the option of doing both again. And why was it that you decided to crowdfund as well as collect the votes?
I think for us was, you know, we had quite a limited like marketing budget, marketing launch budget, so the crowdfunding was a really nice way to raise money to kind of, you know, to pay for a launch party. We crowdfunded for this double-decker bus, which is like our main kind of marketing tool that we've used. We definitely couldn't have had a good launch party and had this amazing double-decker bus if we hadn't actually gone ahead and done the crowdfunder. But for us, we very much kind of tackled the votes first, and our kind of belief is like, if people aren't going to vote for you, then they're probably not going to crowdfund and support the brand. So we very much kind of led with the voting, and then the crowdfunding was the kind of like the part two.
Yeah. So that was your balance really in terms of trying to do both at the same time. You sort of went votes first and then crowdfunding. And when did you sort of switch that on? At what point did you go, yeah, do you know what, we're doing pretty well on votes, let's see what we can do on crowdfunding now?
I think it was probably, we really ramped up the crowdfunding halfway through. Mm-hmm. So like we sent out our email at the beginning just purely to get votes, and then we did one 2 weeks later just focusing on the crowdfunding.
Yeah, and that worked quite well.
Yeah, it seemed to work quite well, yeah. And it was, yeah, and we obviously continued to get the votes up until like the last evening, because the competition like really ramped up, like to 24 hours before we were like in 30th position, and then suddenly we went to 80th, like within the last 24 hours. So we were out there until like midnight of the final night, all of us just on the streets, just getting as many votes as possible.
I think that's really interesting, and I think perhaps for people who haven't VOOMed before, it might be something that maybe isn't so obvious, is that it really can all change in that last 24 hours, 48 hours as well. You might think, do you know what, I've got no chance of being in the top 40 in my group. But all of a sudden, things can change very quickly. Similarly, you might think, do you know what, I'm going to breeze through here. But, if everyone else is bringing their A game, you've got to up the ante as well, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think, for our year, there was a lot of competition. There was some amazing businesses and projects. But I think for this year, there's even stronger projects. So the competition is definitely stronger this year, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. And throughout the whole of VOOM, you guys were very active, and you were definitely became known for some of your creative ways of promoting yourselves. I've never seen so many watermelons in one room, I think, which is the background of where you're broadcasting from.
Oh yeah. It's a bit ridiculous, our office, but it's an entertaining place to work.
Totally. And so tell us about some of the kind of more creative things that you got up to.
So I wore some pretty weird watermelon themed outfits and shirts and shoes, like during the actual pitches, and actually even during some of the votes we were getting on the streets. But we also had, I don't know if you can see, but we had this watermelon like e-bike. Can you see it in the corner there? Which we kind of like took along to our like street samplings, and I actually took it to all of the pitch competitions as well. I even managed to get it into the room and actually kind of ride into the actual pitches on the bike, which was interesting because the thing's quite big and heavy. But yeah, I think for us it's just about like trying to stand out and make an impact. And that, again, like there's so many different brands and so many different people. It's just trying to be a bit memorable. And then with our video, we were quite lucky. We were filming an advert, and we managed to kind of film our crowdfunder pitch around the advert. So we kind of did it for free as a little extra thing. So that was quite helpful. And then it was like also for stuff like when we were getting votes on the streets, when it quietened down with pedestrians, and we'd go into shops and we'd like speak to the people working in shops and get them to, vote for us and tell them about our crowdfunder. And if anything, those people were like even more receptive, and that was even more successful for us than just speaking to people like randomly on the street.
Yeah, totally. And I can see why, with that really strong image and that really strong brand that you have, around obviously the watermelons, he's sipping from the drink. And I think that is a fantastic piece of advice in terms of standing out. There's obviously so many entries every year. Anything that you can do to really, put yourselves head and shoulders above the rest, I think is always going to be a positive thing. So for you guys, and I think you touched on this a little bit, what did you think was the most effective way of getting votes for you guys?
Yeah, I think it's got to be the face-to-face stuff we did, because you can actually, especially when you tell people it's your business and they really kind of, it really makes an impact. And it just gives you're the best person at kind of selling your thing, and the best way to do it is face-to-face with someone. So we tried loads of different things, from like email, mail outs to sponsored videos on YouTube and Facebook, and by far and away, like the face-to-face stuff was the most effective.
Yeah.
And it's also quite good because you can say, look, it only takes 30 seconds to vote. And oh, by the way, the reason why you need your login is because, for like security, to make sure people aren't like buying fake votes and stuff. So it's quite helpful to be able to do all that face-to-face.
Yeah. And did you find that was something that was a challenge or a barrier to people? Were they worried about the login? How did you sort of approach that, I guess?
Yeah, no, it definitely made it harder, because they're like, hang on a second, people are like generally also skeptical about like sharing their LinkedIn or Facebook details with other people. So that definitely made it harder, but I guess you need to have it to stop people kind of like buying votes and stuff.
Yeah. And did people get it when you said, obviously it's to prove that you're a real person,
Yeah, no, they definitely did. And actually what was we were a bit naughty with the face-to-face, because you could actually be like, look, if you get your phone out, I'll show you how to do it. And you kind of like do it with them. So you knew they were going to vote for you because you were essentially like, doing it next to them.
Yeah, totally. And was there anything that you guys did that particularly stands out of something that maybe didn't work so well, that didn't work as well as you thought it would?
Yeah, I think the stuff that probably the least effective stuff is the sponsored. We had our video and we like put some money behind it on YouTube and Facebook. I think that probably had the lowest conversions. But yeah, I just think the personal touch really does make a difference. Mm-hmm. I think maybe the other thing that we didn't do at all, which I kind of wish we had, is maybe push the PR more. And I think like especially like regional PR, so like the local newspapers, again where there's more of a kind of personal kind of angle, I think that would have been really effective. And I remember the competition, some brands did really well, and it was because they got some really good media coverage. So I wish we'd done some more of that.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice, and particularly for local press. You know, we generally sort of say, you know, go local before you're able to go national. You know, for most stories, they'll be looking to see it covered in kind of local press first, particularly if your business is relevant in a particular location. And there's some really great advice online, actually. If you have a look on the VOOM website at the guides that are available, there's some really great information on how to get some press coverage. So I think that's really great advice as well. So thinking about the crowdfunding specifically, obviously it's a whole sort of whirlwind of its own on top of gathering the votes, because no matter what, even if you you know, win the competition, don't win the competition, you have that money in the bank, sort of regardless. So you know, you're never going to walk away empty-handed, I guess. So do you remember where your very first pledge came from, and kind of what your strategy was at the start?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was definitely the first few pledges were definitely like friends and family, because they were the ones who had been involved in the like developing the campaign and who knew about it. So, you know, and then I think probably afterwards it was friends of friends, and then we kind of went out to like the wider general public. But it was great to get like the initial kind of foundation of support from friends and family, and we were quite lucky that our entry-level pledge was £5 for an entry to our launch party, which we had at Brixton Beach, which is like a rooftop beach. So it was actually quite like doable for people to kind of to pledge, and I think they got a sample pack of like 3 watermelons for that as well.
Yeah, and I think that's really good advice in general. Obviously, starting with those people closest to you, just to get some numbers on the board to kind of show people that actually there is people interested in kind of what we're doing. And I think sometimes there's a bit of a misconception with crowdfunding, you know, as well as perhaps with gathering votes in the competition, that, you know, you just kind of put it out to the whole world and hopefully some stuff will come in. Whereas obviously, you know, there's a little bit more strategy, you know, to it than that. So what kind of, also go on.
And, you know, it's actually like also picking up the phone to some people, and, you know, when you write an email, rather than just doing a mass email, you actually spend a few minutes just personalize the content around that specific person you're messaging. And that was also really effective, like just putting the time in to make it more personable, because as soon as everyone gets like a bulk email, and they know it's a bulk email, then people they're kind of less receptive to it, aren't they?
Yeah, totally. I think that's really good advice. You know, spending that little bit of extra time, you know, from my experience in seeing projects, it definitely pays off. It's definitely worthwhile. And you had some pretty awesome rewards. You mentioned the £5 one, which I think worked brilliantly in so many ways, because it was very affordable, because it was fun, it was, you know, good value for money, and it was very in keeping with, you know, what Watermelon's all about. Can you tell us a little bit more about the kinds of rewards that you offered? You know, which ones were the most popular, and any that maybe didn't work so well?
Yeah, I mean, I think our most popular was just our stock, just selling watermelon, because we didn't really have many stockists, so it was the only way people could really get hold of the product and try it. So we sold cases of watermelon for, I think it was half price. So it was, you know, it was quite a good deal. So that was probably our most successful. And then we did things like, if you bought 2 cases and then you got a launch party ticket, then you got your face on the back of our bus. So, which was quite, you know, so our bus is driving around with like 100 different faces of people on the back, which is quite bizarre, but people quite like that. And then we did some other really weird things. We had like a watermelon fixie bike that we had branded up. And then we did loads of retailer and wholesaler kind of pledges as well. Because we were like, you know, it's a great way to kind of get retailers and wholesalers involved in the whole VOOM experience. It shouldn't just be for consumers. So we tried to like channel as many initial orders through our crowdfunder as possible, and that worked really well for us.
Yeah, I think that's actually something which actually very few entrants perhaps have, you know, made the most of at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think traditionally it's perhaps something that can be overlooked, is the fact that there is such a fantastic opportunity to make those, you know, B2B connections, you know, through VOOM. It's a fantastic platform for that. So how did that, you know, did that kind of open the door to relationships going forwards? How did that work?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, the amazing thing about it was it brought them along the whole journey with you. So immediately they have like an emotional connection, and they're more loyal to your brand because they've kind of been through the whole experience with you. So that was definitely the most valuable thing. And yeah, and it helped it helped obviously raise more money. But I'd say probably half our rewards were like the B2B stuff, and then half were the consumer. It was like the right split.
Yeah, and I think, and again, with the B2B rewards, because they're much bigger chunks of money, for each of, you know, each reward is, you know, thousands, potentially, you know, rather than tens or even hundreds. The number that you need is fewer, and the impact, of course, is much greater.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So how important do you think it is to have strong rewards and creative rewards, and, you know, as you said, having your face on the back end of a bus?
Yeah, I think I think getting awareness of your crowdfunder is the main challenge, and the more creative your rewards can be, the easier it is to get awareness because people are going to talk about it with their friends. So I think it's really worth just putting some time into coming up with some fun things that people are going to talk to their mates about and are more likely to want to get behind. So I think it's really, really important.
Awesome.
But getting the basic stuff right as well.
Totally. So obviously you guys were really successful at gathering up votes, as well as raising, you know, lots of money through the crowdfunding element of your VOOM pitch as well. And you actually went on to win the crowdfunder award. Tell us a little bit about how that happened.
Yeah, so it was similar to this year. It was the top 5 highest grossing crowdfunders got put into the final, and then they were basically looking for brands that stood out and were creative and were different, and so we put a lot of work into through our social media, kind of like showing what things would look like with our crowdfunding prizes and mocking up. We had like a double-decker bus we mocked up, and but yeah, we were just lucky that between the top 5 that they felt that our brand was the most kind of creative, and it's been amazing support and help, and actually the whole, you know, Virgin, you guys, JC&Co. It's been the last couple of years we've had some amazing support and help, which has really helped fast track the kind of growth of our brand and the general awareness of our brand.
And I think that's actually perhaps almost the unseen benefit a lot of the time with entering a competition like VOOM is, you know, of course there's the prize money up for grabs and really great things like that available. But actually the other things that you get from the experience, you know, as a brand, and actually in terms of building relationships and building up the brand and testing things and trying things out. What else would you say that, you know, Watermelon sort of got from the whole VOOM experience?
Well, I think as any new brand, you're trying to like build up your social channels as well. And I imagine a lot of people that voted for us or crowdfunded us also followed us on social media and were active on our socials. So we had that, again, that foundation to kind of build off, which is really, really useful. And I guess just meeting met some really amazing people, some really amazing businesses during the whole of the experience, who I still keep in touch with. And you know, there's like a really nice community. We share like advice and we share like tips on other people to work with, and so that's been a kind of thing I wasn't really expecting, but it's been really nice as well.
Amazing. And so for people who are sitting here watching this webcast today, evented VOOM this year, what advice would you give to them going forward? They've got 10 days left.
I think it's going back to what I was saying earlier. It's just to like stand out and be different and be memorable, and you know, just give it 100% commitment, because the competition does kind of accelerate towards the end. So even if you think you're in a kind of secure place now, you know, you just really don't get too comfortable, and up until the last evening, we were out there getting votes to make sure we were in the top 40. And yeah, you know, I think with the pitches as well. I was chatting actually to a friend at Just Eats, who are one of the entrants, and we were talking about, you know, like even using props and stuff as well, and actually taking props into your crowdfunding, your pitching. Sorry, that would be my rough advice.
I think everyone would appreciate that advice to someone who's obviously been through the whole process and come out the other side very much smiling. So just to kind of recap for everyone who has tuned in, that the deadline for putting your pitch live is the 8th of May. We're on the 4th now, so you've got a few days left. And the deadline where voting and crowdfunding will be closing is 7 p.m. on the 15th of May. So do make sure that you're locked and loaded and ready to go for that date. So I'm going to say a final thank you again to Olly from Watermelon for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome, and always great advice, Olly. If you haven't managed to join in the live chat, do feel free to leave some comments below with any questions or anything else that you might want to know about, and we'll jump on and see if we can reply to any of those as well. So best of luck to everyone who's pitching this year, and we'll see you at the next webinar, which is going to be on Tuesday, and that's going to be at 6 p.m. We'll see you then. Thanks, bye.